January 6, 2021, the day America stood still, its heart pounding with fear as chaos unfolded.
Alterations.
In our reality, the chaos was contained, democracy held firm, and a peaceful transfer of power restored hope. But what if the storm never passed? What if chaos didn't stop at the Capitol? What if the country unraveled, divided by claims of fraud and betrayal? Would America fall with its foundation broken for good? In this episode, we dive into the events following the 2020 US election and imagine an alternate outcome, one where the legal battles raged on and the nation found itself on the brink of collapse. The 2020 US presidential election was a turning point in American history. Unlike anything the country had seen since 2000, back then, the nation watched anxiously as Florida's vote was recounted, and though the process was tense, the legal battle ultimately ended peacefully. Al Gore accepted his defeat, and the country moved forward. But the 2020 election was different. The stakes were higher, the rhetoric more divisive, and the reactions from both sides were far more volatile. Misinformation spread rapidly, with social media only deepening divides and fueling mass unrest. In this alternate history, the key battleground states Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona refused to certify the election results as of January 4th. Each state, led by Republican-controlled legislatures, claimed the election had been tainted by fraud. And in a surprising twist, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, although initially resistant, as he firmly stated that the election was secure, standing against the pressures from within his party. However, under immense political pressure and facing a divided Republican Party, he ultimately agrees to send a slate of alternate electors loyal to Trump to Washington, D.C., alongside those from Pennsylvania and Arizona. These alternate electors are set to arrive on January 6th, just as the final certification of the Electoral College vote is set to take place. But what happens when two sets of electors arrive, one for Biden and one for Trump? As tensions rise, the country watches in horror. The Capitol, already preparing for protests on January 6th, finds itself in an even deeper crisis. The arrival of alternate electors sparks chaos in Congress. Members of the House and Senate are split. Should they accept Biden's electors or Trump's? In this scenario, Trump's closest allies in Congress, like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, rally behind the alternate electors, supporting Trump's claims of election fraud. But others, including Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell, refuse to go along, fearing the undermining of democracy itself. As the drama unfolds in Washington, protests break out across the nation. Supporters of both Biden and Trump take to the streets, each convinced that the future of American democracy hangs in the balance. Clashes erupt as tensions rise, and cities across the U.S. are engulfed in chaos, with reports of violence and confrontations between opposing groups. The courtroom becomes a battleground of its own, where legal teams argue over the validity of electors and claims of fraud, each side determined to sway the outcome in their favor. With the nation divided and emotions running high, the question remains, how will this crisis be resolved? The Supreme Court, now packed with Trump's nominees, 3 justices in fact chosen during his first term, plays a pivotal role in this crisis. With tensions mounting and no resolution in sight, the court delivers a shocking decision. They side with state legislatures, ruling that the Constitution grants them the ultimate authority in selecting their electors. This ruling sends shockwaves through the nation. Trump's allies celebrate, viewing it as a victory for their cause. But for Biden supporters, this decision feels like a betrayal by the very institutions designed to uphold democracy, igniting outrage and protests. And in a bitter twist of fate, just as Trump's supporters once chanted "Stop the Steal," it is now the Democrats echoing that sentiment, insisting that the election was stolen from them in a scenario they never envisioned. The world looks on in shock. Many global leaders issue cautious statements, fearing a complete breakdown in U.S. democracy. In the US, public figures from every sphere weigh in on the crisis. Former President Barack Obama speaks out, calling for unity and urging the nation to move forward from the turmoil. He emphasizes the need to strengthen democratic processes and change laws to prevent such crises in the future. We must ensure that the voice of the people is heard, he insists, advocating for the will of the many over the few.
I have a dream.
Trump, backed by his supporters, continues to wield enormous influence over the political landscape, rejecting calls for compromise and doubling down on divisive rhetoric. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney, a vocal critic of Trump within the Republican Party, emerges as a potential candidate for the next election. With a reputation as a moderate, Romney positions himself as an alternative for Americans on both the right and the left, advocating for a return to stability and bipartisanship. His message resonates with those yearning for compromise and an escape from escalating division. Among Trump's opponents, Romney's candidacy becomes a beacon of hope, an attempt to unite a country torn apart by extremism. He emphasizes a balanced approach to issues, proposing immigration reforms that protect borders while creating pathways to citizenship and advocating for economic policies that benefit all citizens. His vision of a cooperative governance stands in stark contrast to the chaos surrounding him. Could this alternate history have become a reality? What more would Trump have done to solidify his power? Would America have survived this constitutional crisis? And as we approach the 2024 election, will we see similar struggles unfold once again as Trump takes on Kamala Harris? Do you think Mitt Romney could have been the one to unify the nation, or is there someone else you believe could step up? What changes do you think are necessary to protect democracy in the future? Could history repeat itself in ways we haven't even imagined?
Two giants rise on either side, with hopes and fears they both collide. Kamala stands a steady hand, but Trump's defiance fills the land. Through the noise and endless fight, we search for hope, we search for light. Could there be a path untold beyond the chaos, beyond the cold? Two voices shout, the stage is set, but there's a future we haven't met. As Harris and Trump clash and debate, could Romney bring a different fate?